Happy Friday, people. So, we've made it to Friday. So, as well, we've got an exercise that's popping up for next week. So, notice it's due next Friday. I'm giving you the next week 5 days to incorporate this all into a solid academic answer. It's all based on your understanding of the ballad concept. Inside the Week 3, Week 4 folder, you'll see it says Cruel Mother, Demon Lover, Three Ravens. Do read over those if you haven't already. Make sure you get a basic understanding of them and decide which one would make a good commentary based on your choice of lens. So I'm going to now break down the concept of the ballad through the exercise document itself. I've posted on that document some overview that will be important and helpful to you. It condenses down the lecture from the previous days. So, starting at the top, you will have selected an individual ballad. Okay, these are all popular from medieval times. These all were archived in the later centuries. One in particular is marked as being performed as a song in the 1900s or the early 1900s. But that's when it was first archived, the musical concept behind the poem. It had been passed on generation to generation for a number of years. You are, to be sure, to have selected a literary lens. Now, the whole point of this exercise is to help you identify specific elements from the traditional literary ballad. Okay, these are based on rhyme scheme, meter, and proposed themes. We have discussed rhyme scheme and meter previously this week, so if you want to review that in the back video, that'd be a good idea. Of course, over the weekend, if you attempt to start writing this and you have questions, I will be available for commentary. Again, you're using a literary lens. The closing section of this essay, you want to propose why the listener, medieval or modern, should easily relate to these songs. What makes your choice a relatable product for the average listener? Okay, now, with ballads, the whole concept of a ballad has been around since the 900s. So we are talking Anglo-Saxon times. We're talking, if you remember, the medieval and Anglo-Saxon concept of the scope, the minstrel traveling from village to village to village, producing music and performing songs that he or she had created themselves. The ballad, it exists as a story that set the music. They're odd little pieces of poetry. They usually have high drama. They can be very melodramatic. And the older ones, all the way up to the 1700s, let's say, for the most part, they're anonymous. It's around the 1700s and the 1800s that we started having some ballads created that we knew who the author was. So the common goal between all this writing, you want to use a simple colloquial language. That is because ballads are set in English. And remember, nobility class and the clerical class all spoke in Latin or French. English was the common language. The lower classes were seen as cartoons or less than valued commodity of the human race. The peasant class, in other words, was strongly looked down upon. So we have quite a collection of these in Old English, and we have quite a few in Middle English. But it's all the common vernacular. When you look at the constructions of these, the story is very sparse in detail. It has weak transitions between the stanzas. So as you move from stanza to stanza, you'll see jumps in time. You'll see a jump in a scene. All of a sudden, you're in a different location. Or a person who is speaking primarily in an opening stanza will not be the same speaker in the next upcoming stanza. So you have to be very careful and pay close attention to how the items are described to you and how details are provided. Sometimes they also like to use refrains. And in these cases, the refrains are not always going to be in an understandable language. In other words, in the 50s and 60s, it was common to have a refrain that was not in English. It was like dally, dilly dally, la, 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 la. And it would repeat often throughout the song. If you think in terms of the movie Grease, same concept. But these refrains are fillers for the works. And that's the purpose they serve. They do not have a translatable meaning behind them. Likewise, there are multiple epithets used in describing the characters, and you'll get a lot of distinct, strange descriptive phrases of imagery. Sometimes you will get dialogue, not all the times, but sometimes you get dialogues between the principal players. Likewise, you do not have a closing moralizing point. Okay, these are very objective. Some of them are rather violent. There are many themes that pop into these stories. The top few are drinking songs, murder songs, love songs, still true today, and sport songs. It's not as elaborate of details in the themes as we have today, according to some critics. The primary purpose of these songs will be entertainment. It's not to promote a social commentary per se. Some of these, the narrator will be like in the murder category, in the murder ballads, the murderer will sometimes be narrating the song. Sometimes the victim is narrating the song. Sometimes the ghost of a long dead victim will come back and tell their story to who's ever listening. Either way you look at it, the emphasis is on the lyric, on a lyrical approach to storytelling. So what this means is, as I mentioned above, the weak transitions, it's not strong with story details. It's not driven by plot, it's driven by emotion. It's all about how the narrator feels at a given moment. It's very similar to the wife's lament in that she's always constantly going on and on and on about depression and grief and anxiety. So these songs will pick up on a mood and carry it throughout all the stanzas. Okay. Now, finally, as far as number 11 is concerned, there is a standard definition of ballad stanzas. Typically, not all ballads will fit this definition. I want to be clear. This is not an expectation or a defining list of qualities that make a stanza, that makes a ballad a ballad. But these are guidelines of possibilities that the ballads can come close to. It's a general idea. Okay, so typically there will be a rhyme scheme, and it'll follow the logic of A, B, C, B. So what that means is the second and fourth lines will be rhyming. The first and third lines will not rhyme. And that's the standard practice. Having said that, you may come across a song that has a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, in which all four lines are rhyming. Or it could be A, B, B. The important thing to get out of this, there should be a sense of a rhyme scheme chosen. More often than not, it would be A, B, C, B. Okay, now as far as meters is concerned, traditionally with folk songs, with ballads, you are alternating between lines that are 4 feet and lines that are 3 feet. So that's tetrameter and trimeter. Emily Dickinson herself in the 1800s, when she wrote her poems, she uses that same method. She's following the tetrameter, trimeter, alternating meter concept. As a result, if you look at items A and B, that means item C, you are dealing principally with quatrain stanzas. Again, as I've said before, on occasion, sometimes you'll have a 5th line or a 6th line, but the majority of these are only quatrains. And finally, repeating item 10 as the fourth important quality of definitions of ballad stanzas, they are lyrical verses. And when you say lyrical verse, it requires emotive, experimental descriptions rather than elaborate plot-driven stories. There will not be any background details. For the modern listener, oftentimes you'll be confused about transitions between scenes or between characters. Background research, in some cases, is essential to understanding the song. Of the three of the grouping I've selected for you to look through, it should be easily interpreted. Now, you will be creating a Google document for this project. You have a whole week to write the essay. You want to look at the ballad and see how do these 4 qualities help define the ballad that you've chosen. So in other words, some of these will easily be identifiable in your chosen ballad. Some of these will not. And you tell me if it does not match any of these 4, you're telling me what you are provided. You're explaining any experimentation of these standard expectations. So for example, if you look at your stanzas and each stanza has a different line count, you would say when responding to item C that the stanzas do not follow the expectation of a ballad. However, they do have 6, 7, 5, 6 in their count. Okay. Now, after you break down these 4 items, you then therefore are going to twist over to the closing concepts of the theme. What literary lens will you use to examine the themes and the story structure? So, looking at the collection of literary lens choices, okay, you want to find a purpose for the work. Is there some sense of a commentary in the song that describes details about the Middle Ages? Is there something in the song that relates the social structure that is different than today? Earlier, I had said for the most part, the expectations of these songs are for entertainment. However, when you use a lens, that's when you look at what the quality of the limited storyline is provided, and then you start analyzing rational reasons for this. This is a good example of how a lens choice is not necessarily dictating what the author themselves was thinking. It's showing you the subconscious influences of society of the time on the author. So the song itself may have details that the author did not even intend to be making an outright social outcry in regards to. If you need more information about that, feel free to holler at me. Okay. Now, the end result, you're using an academic paragraph structure. So the essay will be at least 3 to 5 paragraphs. Okay. So you're having an academic paragraph breaking down your findings. So you have an intro, a body, a closure. You will close with a suggesting why the world at large needs to know about this song and why the world at large needs to look at your examination, why your use of the lens helps clarify the song. Okay, so that's the assignment. That's the breakdown of the ballad concept. You have a whole week to develop that. Okay, so here are the 3 ballads in the week 3, week 4 assignment. Just as an example, I'm going to open up the first one. It's called The Cruel Mother. This example is of a crime ballad. You can find social commentary in this about the status of women in society. Again, it just relates back to the fact that you have to see which of the lenses you are more comfortable with working and how you can manipulate them to suit your ideas of the poem. This one in particular, we have a musical notation that's provided, and this was recorded in 1907. It was archived in 1907. This does not mean Mrs. Bowring was the author. Okay, just skip all that. These are anonymous. If you look at the first stanza, it is a quatrain. The second and fourth lines are the refrain. So what the editors did in this case, in order to save space, okay, all these other stanzas only have 2 lines. These represent the first line and the third line. They did not repeat the refrains on all of the stanzas. So just keep in mind, this is an example of a ballad that is set up in quatrain stanzas. Looking at the next one, Demon Lover. This didn't take a while to open. It's been a long day. Okay. In this particular case, they have provided you with the full quatrain. You'll notice some of the rhymes are just repetition. That still counts as a rhyme. Don't discount it. Okay. The other thing is you will be tracking your textual evidence by line count, not by stanza count, and not by page number. So that means you're going to have to be counting these out by yourself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. This is one of the longer ones, so it goes on for 3 pages. But it is a short read. Okay, and then 3 Ravens, the third one, I'll open up in just a second. Here we go. This is one of the oldest ones around. It's, in fact, one of my favorites. For some bizarre reason, I like it. Okay, here we go. It opened. In this case, again, the refrains are not listed. This can be a little confusing, but just remember, aside from this opening stanza, with it being 7 lines, assume the other stanzas are quatrains. So the down, a down, hey down would be repeated as the second line for all the stanzas. The last stanza, the last line, number 4, will be with a downy, deary, 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 down, down, and it'll be your 4th line at the end of all these stanzas. In this particular case, the folk singers Peter, Paul, and Mary did a version of this song. You can find that in YouTube. In fact, I might put the link out there for you, just so you get a feel for how modern singers have taken these ancient songs and made them popular again. So I'll see if that's available on YouTube. Otherwise, I hope you have a good weekend. You have a whole week to develop this 3 to 5 paragraph essay. It is a major grade. And over this weekend, I'll be posting more scores into the grade book. So take a deep breath. Any frustrations or commentary, you can give me a shout. And I hope y'all have a great week. Take it easy.